Hello everybody and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of Andrew Discusses, the video series where we talk about something on here that's really interesting and that honestly could have multiple points of view. I kind of like that. That's one to have a possibility for an opener, but I'm still trying to find a good opening for this series, okay? I don't even know how many videos I'm into this and I still can't find a decent opening for this. I really can't. But anyway, today I want to discuss something really interesting. I don't think I did a video like this before. If I did, I probably won't put this one up then, but I don't think I have it. I can double check it though anyway. But because I watched some of that Justice League Dark Apocalypse War movie, YouTube has decided, hey, you kind of like DC comic stuff, don't you? Well, no, not technically. No, I'm not a huge fan of DC. It's pretty much obviously made clear the fact that I am a massive fan of Iron Man. Still pissed off by the way that Disney killed him. I mean, we could have got one more fucking Iron Man movie, one solo Iron Man movie. That's all I fucking asked. No, we had to kill off Iron Man. Figures. But basically, I ended up seeing some clips from some old Batman games like Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, and in one of those, it brought up one of my favorite Batman villains. Now, yes, I did watch Batman as a kid. I watched Iron Man 2 as a kid, so, you know, it is what it is. So, one of these things that was brought to my attention was Dr. Victor Freeze. And I always liked Dr. Freeze. I always did. I thought he was really cool. I mean, first off, I liked the Batman and Robin movie. Yes, the one with George Clooney in it. I didn't like George Clooney as Batman, I won't lie about that. But I did enjoy Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. In fact, to me, that was the main reason why I went to see that half a dozen times. And I still have a picture yet that I got from Seaside Heights, New Jersey on the boardwalk when I was in like second grade of the entire cast. You had like all the five main ones, I should say. It's not the entire cast. Alfred wasn't there, Poison Ivy wasn't there. No, I think she might have been there. I don't remember. But I know it had at least most of the cast. And Schwarzenegger was on there. George Clooney was on there. Whoever the hell played Robin. Batgirl. And I still have that yet. I mean, it's in a different frame than from when I originally had it, because I accidentally cracked the first frame it was in. And the picture was fine. It didn't look like it got damaged at all or anything, which really made me happy. But I had a choice between either that or a yellow Power Ranger, and my mom thought I would have went with the Power Ranger. I should have just went with the Power Ranger. But instead, I went with the picture because I thought that was really cool. And I still have it. It's one of the things that I love. I mean, if I ever get the chance, yeah, I'd probably go and see if I could get the actress to sign it and then really have something cool. But, yeah, no, I still have it. I think it's a really cool picture because I like I like Mr. Freeze. He was one of my favorite Batman villains. Honestly, he really is. He is one of my favorite Batman villains. And I only know him from Batman. That is it. That is the only thing. It's the only thing of Batman that I actually like too. Is Dr. Victor Freeze. And his entire story is what interests me, because he's not what I would consider a villain. I don't consider him a villain. He's in the villain role, but I don't consider him a villain. At least not in the common sense. He's more like an anti-villain in a way. He's a villain out of necessity. Not a villain because he's hell-bent on destroying everybody around him because he feels like it. He's a villain out of necessity. The necessity being he wants to find a cure for his wife's disease, which is what possessed him to attempt to save her life by freezing her in a cryogenic chamber, thus preserving her until he could find the cure. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was that he ended up getting exposed to the same cryogenic formula, and it, mutated him, unfortunately. So, there's different versions of how he got this, but the one that I kind of like is he got kind of dumped into a vat of the stuff, or had it just, shoved into him or exposed to it, and he just became one with it. He can't leave a sub-zero temperature area. If he does, he begins to sweat really badly, and he can actually die. And he is not, like I said, he's not what I would consider a villain. In Batman Beyond, he actually came back. And what impressed me with that is that besides giving him a really kick-ass suit, by the way, which they did a good job on that suit in Batman Beyond, they gave him a story of he still wanted to save his wife. I mean, it's far into the future. He is basically your, I am here to be sort of a, relic of the past in a way. Batman himself was even a little skeptical, but Terry McGinnis was just like, look, I think he's a good guy. And he is. Deep down, he is a good person. The problem is that, unfortunately, it was unstable. The chemical that, what was the guy's name? Powers. Derek Powers had used, thank you. Thank you, me. Derek Powers had used to give him that, temporary, I can escape my cold freaking life. Unfortunately, that is sadly didn't last, and he knew all hell was going to break loose, and he's like, look, just leave me here, leave me to die, I'm going to take care of this myself. He wanted Powers' head on a platter, and by this point, Powers had become Blight after being exposed in the first episode, so he's literally taking on Powers, who's using his radiation power versus Freeze's ice power. And as Batman, McGinnis is trying to save him, he's like, come on, let's get out of here. I can still save you. And he goes, no, leave me here. He goes, you're the only one that cared. And that struck me as a massive, holy crap, he was not a villain. He really wasn't. I mean, if you actually think about it, everything that Freeze did was basically just to get components. It's not even technically like he stole it with the intent that I'm never giving it back either. I mean, he never flat out stole something and sold it. He stole it to aid his research to help his wife. It's not like I'm going to keep it when I'm done. Once I'm done, I can almost guarantee you, once he was done with it, he was going to give it back. It's like, no, here we go. It's, I stole it, yeah, but I technically borrowed it. I'm returning it. I only needed it to help cure my wife. That's it. I'm returning it to you. No question, no problem at all. It's undamaged. In fact, it's even upgraded. It's better than when I took it. You're welcome. And walk away. I don't think they would have had an issue with that. I mean, Batman would have easily okayed him, if not for the fact that Batman kind of saw him as a villain. A lot of everybody else in Gotham saw him as a villain. But the thing was, he wasn't a villain. I mean, sure, okay, he stole stuff, he did some questionable things, but he did those out of a necessity to save his wife. It's the same thing like you would have somebody stealing a loaf of bread to feed a little child. They're not doing it for themselves, they're doing it for somebody else. And in Freeze's case, he's literally just, I'm doing this to save my wife. And every iteration of Batman that I've ever seen where that happens, he ends up somehow being nice and thanking Batman at the end. I mean, in the Arkham City clip that I saw, he was basically there, and he looked at Batman and said, Batman was like, look, I can't offer you justice, but I can offer you peace. And he gave him a canister to replenish his supply of the cold liquid stuff in his chest that he needs to survive. And he did that so that, he would live. Because Batman had no quarrels at all with Freeze. None at all. He had no issue with Freeze whatsoever. He was basically like, look, I'll help you. That's not a problem. I'll do what I can. And he saved Freeze's wife, who was starting to thaw from the cryogenic chamber. So he saved her. Same thing happened in the Batman movie that I mentioned, Batman and Robin, where Poison Ivy had pulled the plug on Mrs. Freeze. And she's told Mr. Freeze, well, Batman killed her. And he went crazy wanting to kill Batman. Which you figure any reasonable person who just lost the love of their life would probably want to go after the person that, killed them. Especially in the fictional universe. That's, the story of revenge. Look, they took something from me. I'm going after them now. And what happened was that Poison Ivy had revealed her plan, and Batman had recorded it. And she had said, well, like I told Lady Freeze when I pulled her plug, this is a one-woman show, and Batman had that recorded. Now, granted, not from that freaking angle that they showed it in, but you know what, the hell with it, we're not going to argue with logistics in this. And he told Freeze that I found her, I saved her, she's alive, she's still frozen, but she's alive. and I'll have her transferred to the prison so you can continue your research on her. And the whole thing was because she was suffering from the same disease that was slowly killing Alfred in the movie. It was called McGregor syndrome. And he goes, but I know you have a cure for McGregor syndrome stage 1. His wife's case was a little more advanced, but he goes, I know you have a cure for McGregor syndrome stage 1. He goes, help me save another life. And Freeze just took two little vials out of his wrist on his suit and said, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. And honest to God, he probably would have. He probably would have said, look, here's the patient. I gave him the 2 vials. Now what? What are his vitals? He probably would have helped him out. Because Batman did not harm him. He did not have any quarrels against Freeze whatsoever. He looked at Freeze and thought, you know what? This isn't your fault. This isn't your issue. This isn't I don't have a problem with you so long as you're not technically full out breaking the law. You're trying to help somebody. I can get behind that. That's exactly what I'm doing in a way. But I'm just not doing it the same way you are, but we're both doing the same exact thing in a way. And for me, that's what always strikes me as Mr. Freeze was not a villain. So like I constantly said, if DC would ever go belly up and, Marvel would be willing to take on a few extra characters to help bolster their ranks, a little more variety, drag Mr. Freeze over, give him a hero spot, and let him be the hero he deserves to be. Mr. Freeze is one of those. I'm safely going to say that. I mean, he's intelligent, first off. He built a suit to basically protect him from dying. It's that suit that keeps him alive. Sure, okay, he has his freeze gun. It's more of a defensive weapon. As stated in that, I'm going to quote the same game here, Arkham City. He actually, when Batman had to do the detective thing on it, because I saw the whole CGI thing for that, I guess it was like a paid DLC or something, it basically said that it looks like this ice is starting to shut down this guard's systems. It's basically preserving him in a cryo-like state. He wasn't killing anybody. The freeze gun didn't kill anyone. They just put them into a cryogenic state. You could easily pull them out of it then, just by adding heat to it, provided you do it very carefully. So, in all honesty, he wasn't killing anyone. He was taking stuff, but it wasn't that he was taking it to resell it. He was taking it to aid his research. If there was a possible genetic system or something that could be useful, he would go and acquire it to try to use part of it to see if that might be a possible cure for his wife. In all honesty, like I said, a good chunk of that, he's not a bad guy in any way, shape, or form. I get the whole concept that, he's supposed to be the bad guy, you're supposed to not like him and everything, but I liked Mr. Freeze. I thought he was one of the best characters that Batman ever went up against, because he's not a bad guy. He's one of those characters that you actually have to sit down and wonder, is me taking him into justice really justifying anything? Am I doing the right thing here? And the answer is usually no, because he's not doing anything wrong. All he wants to do is save his wife. That's it. That's all he wants. And in the end, that's all he really ever wanted. He has to put some of that aside and take a side street from now and then to, look, I need this part or I need this computer or something, and he'll go and find that stuff, borrow it technically in a way, because I guarantee you he had the intent of returning it. Or worst case scenario, publishing his findings, going, look, I found a cure, and using that money going, oh, by the way, here, I'd like to make restitution for the thing that I stole from you a few years ago, when I wasn't myself. But see, that's the whole thing. And worst case scenario, he could have easily, after saving her, he could have found a way to make her just like him, where it's like, look, you have no choice, we need to be like this. Or he could have figured out a way to keep himself cooler with the smaller suit that still had, an appearance that he could walk around out in public with and not seem like a menacing robot. But we never know any of that stuff because, of course, he's not a bad guy, and that's the whole thing. And I know somebody out there is going to tell me, no, Andrew, he's a bad guy. Dr. Victor Freeze is a bad guy. No, he's not. That's just it. That's my entire point on this. That's where I stand. I don't see him as a bad guy. I see him as misunderstood. I see him as, I only want to save my wife. That's all I want to do. I just want to save Nora. That's it. But everybody else sees him as, oh my god, it's Mr. Freeze, he's going to freeze everybody and kill everyone. But the kicker is that his freeze gun doesn't kill. It preserves. You're basically still alive. It's sort of like what happened in The Day After Tomorrow with some of the people that were subjected to the super chilled air from the eye of the storm. It froze them instantly. They're still technically alive. They're just literally preserved. They're giant fossils at this point. But as Batman pointed out in this game, the clip anyway that I saw, that the guard that was subjected to the freeze gun is still technically alive. His systems are just shutting down and he's being cryogenically preserved. So technically, he's still alive. All Freeze did was immobilize him. And he didn't kill him. He didn't technically harm him. He's fine. And so that doesn't make him a villain as far as I'm concerned. He hasn't done anything villain related. But let me know what you think. Do you think Dr. Victor Freeze is a villain? Or do you think he's more of a misunderstood hero in a way? Like, what he wants to do is justifiable. It's the people around him that don't understand why he's doing what he does. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. And until next time, I'm Andrew Rhodes, and this has been Andrew Discusses.